Welcome to another edition of the podcast. This edition is going to be dedicated to Arduino Day, which was celebrated on the 25th of March. Arduino Day is essentially their birthday, and they use that opportunity to bring the community of makers together and to talk about a number of things, especially around new products and features that they have. And this year was no exception. So it was a 4-hour event, and if you didn't have the opportunity to sit down for 4 hours to go through it, then I'm going to summarize most of the events that took place that day. There are two categories of events. One was the community showcase, where they essentially just showcased things that people were doing using Arduino from different parts of the world. I'm not going to go into that. Instead, I'm going to go into what Arduino themselves brought to the event and what they wanted, the maker community to know about. So first up, I'm going to talk about Arduino Lab for MicroPython. Now, traditionally, Arduino and most microcontrollers have been programmed using C and C++. Arduino's platform simplifies that whole process, and it tries to encapsulate a lot of things by giving us libraries and functions that hide a whole lot of initialization behind the scenes. So there's an Arduino core that sits between most microcontrollers and the Arduino interface itself. However, for people who do not come from an embedded systems engineering background, C and C++ might be something that they consider to be unapproachable, and for that reason, Python, which is popular in the software space, was brought into the microcontroller space, and it's a subset of Python. For that reason, it's called MicroPython. Now, not every Arduino microcontroller supports MicroPython, but a few of the more recent ones support MicroPython, such as the Arduino Nano RP2040 Connect, the Nano BLE Sense, and the Portenta family. Now, when Arduino first brought MicroPython support to their microcontrollers, they partnered with OpenMV. And OpenMV are famous for their cameras, but they also have an IDE. And this was particularly useful for the Portentas because the Portenta H7 has a shield. It has what's called a vision shield. So there's a camera on board, there are microphones on board, and with OpenMV, you're able to do a bunch of stuff using MicroPython. The challenge, according to Arduino, was that people found it a bit too complex and a bit daunting, and so they decided to build an IDE similar to what you have with the Arduino IDE, and so that led to a new MicroPython IDE, and it's available in the Arduino Lab. So if you go check it out, you'll find it there. And they did demo the Nano RP2040 Connect being used with the new IDE. Okay, up next is the Arduino Cloud. And if you don't know about the Arduino Cloud, it's essentially two things. There's a web IDE, and then there is the Arduino IoT Cloud. The web IDE is similar to what you have with the desktop. It lets you, write your sketches, but now using a browser. So it's particularly useful for devices where you don't have a native support for the Arduino IDE, such as if you use a Chromebook. Now, the Arduino Cloud isn't free, but there's a free tier. But you approach it from the perspective of something that you need to pay a subscription for. The Arduino Cloud supports two classes of boards: the Arduino boards and then expressive boards. The IoT Cloud itself provides device management as well as monitoring. It lets you build dashboards. It lets you send data from your microcontrollers on the edge over things like Wi-Fi, and then you're able to build dashboards and monitor what's going on with them. So in this year's edition of Arduino Day, there were announcements around what's new on the Arduino Cloud. First of all, some new boards are being supported. The Giga from Arduino, which is the upgraded Arduino Duo or Mega with lots and lots of pins, but now with an upgraded processor. There's the Opta, which is their micro-PLC, which runs on an STM32 microcontroller. And there's also support now for the Portenta H7. There is support for 3 new expressive boards. So ESP32C3, S2 and S3 are now supported on the Arduino Cloud. And now you can bring your phone as a device to Arduino Cloud. And so you can access certain sensors on your phones. So for example, accelerometers, GPS, barometers. You can get all of that data and work with it on the Arduino Cloud. So essentially you can prototype stuff if you don't have hardware with you without having to wait to go get new hardware. There's also now over-the-air update support for expressive boards. Previously, over-the-air updates were only supported for Arduino's own boards, but now it's come to expressive boards. And then they've also announced major updates to dashboards, widgets, things like that on the cloud. There's now also an Arduino Cloud CLI, and what you have there are things like device management via the CLI, the ability to export configurations via text and to edit those and upload those back, or to use them as templates for additional device configuration. You can now also do push over-the-air updates via the CLI. There's now an Arduino Cloud for business, and I can say that for me, this was exciting news. I've been wondering when that was going to come, particularly because if you've been working with the Arduino IoT Cloud, you've had to work with every single device individually, which doesn't make sense if you're going to be doing anything with a large number of devices. And that's something that corporates or enterprises expect to be able to do. It's typically called fleet management. So Arduino Cloud for Enterprise, which is new, comes with device management, fleet management. It comes with role-based access control. That's again another very important requirement for enterprise. If you don't know what that means, it simply means that within a company, you typically would have people who are able to do different things. And because they're able to do different things, they shouldn't have the same level of permissions for anything on the platform. And so role-based access control just lets you create users and then grant them roles to do very specific things. So you might, for instance, have people who can create dashboards and other people who can access dashboards but can't, move widgets around and do stuff. You can have people who can add things. You've got fleet management. I'm sure I've already mentioned that, yeah. And then there are a few optional features that are available for enterprise customers, such as management of the Portenta X8. Portenta X8 is the more powerful big brother of the Portenta H7, and a few other things. So if you are doing anything that requires corporate level performance, Arduino Cloud now has it, so you can. So there are updates to the Arduino Project Hub. If you've been working with ThinkStar, then you generally have an idea of what the Arduino Project Hub is, because if in the past, if you upload a project on ThinkStar that is Arduino specific, it appears on the Arduino Project Hub. But now there are improvements particularly around accessibility and usability. There's now a feature that lists the most popular projects when you get to the Project Hub. There's now categorization for projects, so it makes it easier for you to find projects that you're interested in. There's a community feature now, so people can congregate around a project and talk about it, leave comments, questions. You can even improve your own learning there by just going to read comments and suggestions and things like that. On ThinkStar, when you create a project, you've always been able to upload source code. Typically, you might link to source code in GitHub or something. Now, on the Arduino Project Hub, you're able to link to your code directly on the Arduino Cloud. And so what that means is anyone who's reading the project can go directly to the Arduino Cloud. They can clone your project and get started. It makes it a whole lot easier because since you have it on the cloud, you're not copying code out or making any mistakes or anything. You're able to keep your sketches up to date. And Arduino would like for makers to use Arduino Project Hub as a portfolio site. So they would like for makers to upload their Arduino specific projects on there and refer other people to those projects. There was a showcase of Arduino Pro, specifically the Nicla family. So Nicla family lies somewhere just below the Portenta family. It's currently made up of 3 devices. There's the Nicla Vision, which has an onboard camera. There's a Nicla Voice, which has an onboard microphone, and then there's a Nicla Sense ME. ME stands for motion and environment, so it's a bunch of sensors, an accelerometer, a gyroscope, that sort of thing, plus environmental sensors. But all of the Nicla boards are really tiny. They're tiny. They're thumb-sized, more precisely. But they all feature, the STM32H7 family of processors on them. And then there was the Arduino Opta. And the Opta is a micro-PLC, so it's meant for things like energy monitoring, home automation, those sorts of things. It also features the STM32 family of processors, so it's able to run machine learning, tiny machine learning, similar to the Nicla and the Portenta family. All of those are able to run TinyML. So you're able to build solutions, whether at an industrial level or at a home level, that leverage tiny machine learning on the edge because of the types of sensors that you have on these devices. So that's Arduino Pro highlighted. There's a new Arduino. Well, what's Arduino do without a new Arduino, right? So there's a new microcontroller, and this time around it's called the Uno R4. And the Uno R4 is the same form factor and is the new brother to the Arduino Uno and the Uno R3 family. Same form factor, so all the shields are expected to be compatible. Same power rating, 5 volts, so all peripherals that work with R3 should work with R4. What's new is that now they make use of a USB Type-C actually. USB Type-C on the new board, and it features a new 32-bit ARM Cortex-M4 processor on it, so newer, faster. Cortex-M4 supports TinyML, so people are going to be running pretty interesting applications on the R4. It's not out yet. It's expected to be out towards the end of May, but there's an early access program. So if you've written any libraries or you are a contributor to any open source projects that are based on the Uno R3, then you can apply to the R4 early access program. So go check out the Arduino website, and you can apply to get an Uno R4 before the official release. But this is only for library authors and open source contributors. If you're not one of those, they've asked that you just kindly wait for the official release. Now, there'll be two types of the Uno R4. There's what they call the Minima, which in English just means like the base version. And then there'll be another version that will have a Wi-Fi chip on it. So think of it like the old Arduino Uno, with the Wi-Fi board on it. And what that means is that this board will also have access to the Arduino Cloud. Okay, that's my summary of Arduino Day 2023. Thank you, and see you at the next podcast.